Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls with the Spirit of Truth, a book that comes to us 60 years after it was published in the original version in Portuguese in Brazil. Two mediums, Waldo Vieira and Chico Xavier, in the city of Uberaba, Minas Gerais, Brazil, psychographed messages from a group of superior spirits. Amongst them, who is he? Here he is, Cairbar Schutel. Cairbar Schutel came here before in another message, mediums and mediumship and much more, and he comes back today. In Brazil, especially in the Spiritist press, he was very instrumental. He is a reference for us as a Spiritist, and this is exactly the topic we're talking about. Cairbar Schutel inspired himself in the mission of spirits. Chapter 20, Workers of the Last Hour. That's why we have this program at 11 p.m. to remind us that it's the last hour of the day. We spiritists have been called for centuries, probably for millennia, at least since Jesus called us, but even before that. And now, finally, we're here, and many are still lost. Chapter 20, item 9 is the mission of spiritists. Erastus, a spirit mentor of one of the mediums at Kardec's time, writes a thesis in the name of the Christ consciousness on earth with a proposal of the consoler of spiritism, the definition of our mission as spiritists. Now, you and I, do you feel the mission of being a spiritist? Oh, I thought that being a spiritist is a thing for myself. Then we're not reading the books because that's selfishness. In the book Liberation, we find a particular chapter. It's a book to be read. Chico Xavier psychographed, Andre Luiz as the spirit author. He talks about the beyond and the case of a man who was being classified as a miser in the spiritual realm. He raised his hand and said, I was not a miser. I was an intellectual. I never had money. But the spirits were around. They said, but you were a miser of knowledge. Because you knew it and you didn't share, you didn't multiply. So you and I are being called today to ask ourselves whether or not we're being misers of knowledge, knowing of spiritism and not really understanding that a true spiritist is an active, Christ conscious person. We can't talk about charity and not be charitable. We cannot talk about spirits and the help of the spirits without being a good instrument to the good spirits. So in the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, it says, fear not, to spiritists. Tongues of fire are upon your heads. True followers of spiritism, you are the chosen ones of God. Go and preach the divine word. The time has come. You need to read this. I know you've read it, but it's good to go to the Gospel According to Spiritism by Kardec, chapter 20, item 4. Based on that mission of spiritists, Cairbar Schutel, who was a model of spiritism in the world, he comes to us and says, be a volunteer. Are you already a volunteer? Oh, I volunteer at a nonprofit organization. No, we're talking about in the Spiritist movement. Number one, he begins with the most important part of it all. Volunteer in the works of educating children in Spiritism. Do not wait for an invitation to contribute with the good news in children's hearts. Help the plantation of the future. But you may be asking, Vanessa, can I just raise my hand, volunteer, and go? No. A serious spiritist center will work with us. I say, I would like to volunteer, but here's a tip for all of us. Some people, they write to us. I want to volunteer at Kardec Radio. I want to volunteer at the Spiritist Magazine. In the Spirit side of Virginia, we say, great. But those who want to volunteer, they need to be patient, to understand how things work, so they can join in. I cannot enter Obama Foundation and say, Obama, I have a great idea. We're going to revamp your social media. We're going to revamp your strategy. I want to be a volunteer. He's going to look at me and probably say, really? Because when we volunteer, we don't volunteer to do what we like, but we volunteer to be useful in what people need. I want to volunteer, but I want to bring somebody from my family to do it. No, it's me. I will do it, not somebody else. So here comes Cairbar Schutel saying, be a volunteer at the gospel service. Like when you have to open a message and explain it. Do not wait for the members to begin it. Do it yourself. Sometimes in the United States, or often, people say, oh, we don't have a center. Now there's no excuse because we are online. It's time for everybody to begin their group, whatever they are. And we say everybody, meaning those who do not have a group or a center. Go, open your study group. Don't wait for somebody to do it. Volunteer at the Spiritist Temple. Do not wait to be a director to collaborate. Volunteer in the study that edifies. We're talking about study sessions. Volunteer in mediumship. Do not wait for mediumistic development systematically sitting at a session. Look for the coexistence of the superior spirits supporting the unfortunate. So be a medium, helping those who come and need help at the center. But remember, in the book Action and Reaction by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, chapter 2, there is a statement that I particularly, Vanessa Anceloni, will never forget, because the first time I read it, I was shocked. André Luiz said that he learned that order is the basis of charity. He wanted to enter a particular location to help, and the mentor said, no, you can't. But I want to help. No, you can't. You're not ready for this. So how often we raise our hand like, pick me, but we can't go there yet, but we need to do something else. Maybe by doing that, we'll be allowed to do something else. Volunteer in social assistance, like when we help the needy brothers and sisters in the streets, in shelters, etc. Volunteer in disseminating Spiritism. For example, he says, do not wait for money to spread it. Spread through books, publications. We have here the headquarters of the Spiritism Magazine, Kardec Radio, turning 10 years. And we need volunteers, but we need volunteers who are consistent, who say, I'm going to do it, and then do it. Because we have a lot of people in the behind the scenes. They need to do a lot of refining work because we have 10,000 platforms. Right before this program, I was seated with a member, a volunteer, who was going through a list of things that we need to do, fix, refine, playlists, etc., so people can listen to it on demand. If we say, I'm going to do it and I don't do it, I am going to fail. Volunteer in the Spiritist press. Help. But some people write, oh, I want to help. I want to edit. But I don't know the person. We need to know each other. Because our experience in the spiritist movement with any volunteers this, if people say they're going to do it, we're going to believe it and we're going to wait for it. But we can't do it only when we can. We have to do it. Like I'm here. No matter what's happening, I'm here. I have a life too. We have a life. But we have a commitment. We're not going to type in, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it today. Unless it's something really dramatic. Otherwise, it's fulfillment. So he finalizes the message saying, my friend, do not feel fulfilled if you're not volunteering. Cultivate some spontaneity in the tasks of the good. Because some people, they say, Vanessa, I know Mentor Joseph is going to call me through you when I am supposed to do something. No, it doesn't work that way. It may, but how does it work? The person needs to come. But understanding that in that organization, this, that, and the other, there are dynamics already happening. I can't go to a publisher, for example, and say, let's publish this type of books. The publisher is going to say, I'm sorry, but we have books in the pipeline already. So when we want to volunteer, we volunteer in the dynamics, in the structure that exists. If we think we have a better structure, we need to humble ourselves and go into the structure first to be able to help with restructuring. It's a lot of vanity when I enter an organization, when I see a radio, a magazine, and I say, I could do much better, but we're doing nothing. It's a lot of pride. I could do much better, but we're doing nothing. And we're judging, we're criticizing, and worse, we're not helping. He says, the sowing of the gospel is huge, but the workers are few. We live in times of fundamental renewal, and this was written in 1961. And we live that renewal to date. Therefore, let us cross in service the threshold of the age of the Spirit. Yes, more and more we're gravitating to a new era of true ethics for immortality. The era of the Spirit is about immortal ethics. When we're going to live by standards that the society of the time we're living in do not understand fully. Everyone is mobilized, he said. Each person can serve in their own way. Enlist while you are able. I have a true account of a spiritist, two. I'll tell you. You want three? I'll tell you three. True, true stories. Number one, a person who was president of a spiritist center, but actually just held the title, not much work, came to me once and said, I'm retiring. And Vanessa, after I retire, I'll dedicate myself much more. He retired, a month later, diagnosed with a disease, less than a year later, discarnated. No time. Life's not going to wait for a retirement, for free time, for the optimal time. Second case, a good friend. She worked as best she could, but she had cancer. And then a week before this person discarnated, visiting her, she looked at me and said, Vanessa, I want to work in spiritism more. And Mentor Joseph said, she will, but not in this life. Third case of a renowned spiritist speaker who the year before he retired, he came to me and said, when I retire next year, I'm going to take my time to enjoy my life a little bit, etc. And I asked, but aren't you going to dedicate yourself even more to spiritism? He said, no, I won't. The next year he retired and he had a stroke. He continues doing the work. but not in the same way. What we are saying here is that Cairbar Schutel is warning us. Let us enroll in the good while we can, because we don't know tomorrow. Take initiative. Present yourself at some renewing activity. Serve without resting. Now, this is something that I will write because he says, serve without rest, because I see lots of volunteers who serve and they want to rest. Serve without rest. I know you may say, but Vanessa, I can't read this. Sometimes it's so small, right? I agree with you. But let me share with you what we want to share. Serve without rest. The other day, somebody told me, oh, I love volunteering. Do you volunteer nowadays? No, I don't. But I used to volunteer 4 years ago. Well, but you just told me that you volunteer. No, I used to. So sometimes we have that feeling. We did a great thing 10 years ago and it's everlasting. No, we need to do it every day. Oh, I did it yesterday. It doesn't count. Today's a blank page. Take the book of life. The book of life is written. Be happy. And you open today, blank page. Oh, but I wrote. No, but this is blank. Always, almost always, a spirit is without service, is a soul on the way to the dark labyrinths on the lower zones. If we don't do the good, what happens? Question 642 of the Spirit's book by Kardec. What if we don't do any evil? Is that a problem? And they say, well, if you don't do any good, the good that was left undone will generate evil, and the consequences are our responsibility. If there is one person that is missing the spread of spiritism because we're not engaged, we are co-responsible. We are supposed to, the children first, and then everybody else together. Volunteer at the harvest of Jesus, our Master and Lord. What is the exercise for the next 24 hours? You and I are going to meditate. Because even if I volunteer, Vanessa, I will think that Cairbar Schutel is asking me to expand what I'm doing. Not doing more, but sometimes deeper quality. If I do a program, greater quality. And sometimes the quality is not only about words or knowledge, but the quality of feelings. So in the next 24 hours, you and I are going to revisit our volunteering efforts in the harvest of Jesus. You're a spiritist. Be a volunteer. And if you find out that you're not volunteering in any way, run. Because almost always, the spiritist without service is a soul on the way to dark labyrinths in the umbral, the lower zones. For those who don't know what it is, read the book No Solar by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, and we'll get to know. Powerful, thanks to Cairbar Schutel. Don't you feel honored for being invited to the harvest? Join in. Let us be a volunteer together, wherever we may be. We wish you many blessings, much love, and gratitude to God for this message that invites us to action. Thank you, friends.